Welcome to the NFL MVP Momentum Podcast. I'm Sam Holcroft alongside Payton Thompson. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP, follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. So today we're going to do our Week 10 preview and partial review since we're recording on a Friday with the Thursday night game happening. So just to recap last week, once again, standings have stayed the exact same. Zeke, who was on top, went 10-4. Did not get his upset, but got the double down. I stayed in second place. I also went 10-4. Did not get my upset, but got the double down. PT, you stayed in third with going. Looks like you went 7-7. Also not getting your upset, but you got your double down. And then Sean made up some ground. He tied you in points, but you owned the head-to-head based on your overall record. And Sean went, looks like 9-5. But he's the only guy that got upset and double down this last week. So the standings, including the Bears game that happened last night, which we all picked the Bears. Zeke is at 106 points with an 87-49 record. I'm at 104 points with an 84-52 record. Actually, Zeke's going to have 88. I didn't add the wins. So 88 wins, 85 wins. Payton, you're going to have 87 wins with 100 points. And Sean's going to have 85 wins with 100 points. Okay, so there's the recap. Now we'll go into our Overreaction Mondays. PT, you can start with Zeke's.
Yeah, with Zeke's, we're gonna start with the team that I have going to the Super Bowl. I think I still have them going to the Super Bowl as of right now. I just think that they hit a certain point in their season where they're just kind of coasting, which is not where you want to be at as an NFL team, especially a good NFL team that has aspirations to go deep in the playoffs. But obviously they've lost the last few games. I don't think many people saw this coming. I think you saw how dominant they were in the first few games, and we all thought they were going to be, maybe a 3, 4, 5 max win-loss team. But now it's looking like they could lose a little bit more games. But to me, I see the 49ers as a team that may coast a little bit in the middle of the season, and then they're going to rattle off some more wins as it gets deeper in the season. And then in the playoffs, hopefully they turn it up another gear, and then they're gonna be able to beat whatever team they come in contact with. So, I guess we'll kind of see how they go from here. But, I'm not really ready to give up on the 49ers. But, Zeke's overreaction is right. It is put up or shut up time. So they either have to start, turning it around and get back to the gear that they were at, or they're going to have to, face the consequences, I guess.
Yeah, and the biggest reason I agree with this overreaction statement is because the Eagles only have one loss, and they've looked good over the last few weeks. They beat the Dolphins. Everyone's like, the Eagles will lose this game. They didn't. They faced the Cowboys, who you thought that they were going to win last week. They beat the Cowboys. So with how far that gap is starting to get, because if the Eagles win this upcoming week and the 49ers lose, that is now a 3-game separation. 49ers could still beat the Eagles later this year. The Eagles could still lose to the Chiefs, and the Eagles will still have 1 game up on the 49ers. So this game is very important for the sake, and also if the Seahawks keep playing good, maybe the 49ers don't even win their division. So moving on to my overreaction. My overreaction is the Minnesota Vikings will be a playoff team. So I really thought after the first 2 drives of Josh Dobbs, first 3 drives, this is what happened. I think first 4 drives, it went fumble, safety, 3-and-out, interception. That was the first 4 drives that Josh Dobbs had, I believe. They ended up winning and coming back. So when the trade happened, and I think I might have said this in the podcast last week, Josh Dobbs might be just good enough to keep that team afloat to be a playoff team. Now I am convinced that he will be good enough because that was with zero preparation. Nobody expected him to play last game. You know, Jordan Hall going down is exactly what that team. I don't want it to sound bad, but it's exactly what that team needed because Josh Dobbs stepped up and got them to win. And if they could do that with zero preparation, what can you do with a lot of preparation?
Yeah, I hope that pouring some salt in my wounds gave you some joy there, because that really hurt to hear. Obviously, me being a Falcons fan, I knew how the game went, and I just don't really know how we lose that game, but you're right though. I mean, I think weirdly enough, Jaren Hall going down, like you said, was probably the best case scenario for the team that day. I don't think they went into. I mean, obviously, as a pro team, you go into every game thinking you can win the game, but I don't think that realistically a lot of people thought that they were going to come out winning the game with Jaren Hall. But when Josh Dobbs came in, obviously it was a rocky start. But I think that is even a more better testament of the kind of player he is. With Arizona, he didn't have weapons. He didn't have a coaching staff that he had rapport with. He didn't have a receiver that he necessarily had a lot of work with. And, he still made it work while he was there, even though they only have one win. They were competitive week in, week out. And so I agree with you. I mean, especially if you add that they're going to start getting some guys healthy. Justin Jefferson, hopefully TJ Hawkinson is going to keep getting more healthy. I would have to look at their specific schedule and kind of pick out what games I see them winning. But I could definitely see them being a wild card team, especially in an NFC that isn't specifically strong in kind of the middle area. So yeah, I mean, I gotta say I agree with you there. I think it's ultimately going to depend on how Josh Dobbs can improve over the season, though.
Yep.
So this is gonna get a little spicy, and I mean, maybe not a little bit spicy. It kind of depends how you look at it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say now, CJ Stroud is one of my guys. I like CJ Stroud. I think he's played phenomenal. I mean, obviously, I got a really good first, glimpse of him when he played Atlanta, I believe in Week 4, or Week 5, and he looked really good, even though he won the game. He's just one of those guys that I think, when you talk about the eye test, he matches everything what the eye test tells you. He's a fast processor. He's good at putting the ball where guys can catch it. He's good with ball placement. Um, he has mobility skills. He has a strong arm. His accuracy is looking pretty good this season. And it's crazy that he looks so good and his stats are so good that it's his first season. I think if this was his second, third season, it would be more like, okay, now CJ Stroud is looking like a good quarterback. This is the guy that we were supposed to be drafting at 2. But drafting CJ Stroud at 2 and not having to give up extra draft capital to be able to do that has been one of the best moves I think the Texans have made in a long time. And obviously, they were going to be the team that got whoever fell between CJ and Bryce. But right now, it's looking like CJ Stroud's the better quarterback, and I'm not sure if that's gonna hold throughout their careers, because I feel like the quarterback position when guys are young are so hard to evaluate how their whole career outlook is gonna be. But as of right now, he looks really good, and I think when you compare him against the other, let's just cut it down to maybe top 15. He's definitely top 10. I think when you look at talent, when you look at his improvement over the season, how I guess I should say the lack of weapons that he has comparatively to a lot of the teams in the NFL. It's hard to say that he's not already a top 10 quarterback with the kind of weapons that he doesn't have. And D'Amico Ryans not only being a rookie head coach, but him having to work with this and both those guys kind of being rookies in their positions. It's like it's hard to see the Texans not getting better and better as they get more draft capital, and then they have the I guess they don't have their pick of this year, but they have the Browns, and I believe they have another pick as well. So they'll be just fine. They're going to be able to have more free agency money as well. Dalton Schultz has been a really good sign for them. I like Tank Dell. Zach Brown had a really big game for them. So yeah, I think things are looking up for the Texans and CJ Stroud. I mean, what a rookie season, man.
Yeah. So before I go into your overreaction, PT, I gave you a lot of crap when it came to our draft, or our mock draft, because you picked CJ Stroud to go to the Panthers, and then I had to go with Bryce Young going to the Texans. So although you were wrong, and I'll tell you again, you were wrong. You probably should have been right, like with how CJ Stroud is playing so far this year. Because honestly, like with the amount of receivers, I feel like the receiving core, like talent wise, is the same with the Panthers and Texans right now. And CJ Stroud is just outplaying Bryce Young. Um, and like the offensive lines, I feel like that those offenses are comparable, with the exception of the running back, where the Panthers should have a better running back in Miles Sanders, but he's been dealing with injuries. So I'll this is the first and only time that I say I'm sorry for giving you so much crap, but you were still wrong. But now going to the overreaction, I feel like 8's pretty high, but I mean we call it an overreaction for a reason. If we look at the top 10 quarterbacks, like I'm pretty sure in terms of fantasy wise, CJ Stroud's top 8 with how he's been producing, especially after that last game, having 5 touchdowns, 470 yards. Not many quarterbacks could have gotten the ball last week with 46 seconds left, down 4 points against a pretty good Buccaneers defense, and still score the game-winning touchdown. And not only that, 6 plays, I think 1 timeout, and they were able just to move it down in 40 seconds, 6 plays, score the game-winning touchdown with 6 seconds left. That's phenomenal. I think that's a conversation to have at the end of the year, but if you can have a couple other games kind of even half as stellar as they were last week, then he could probably be top 8. And then Sean's overreaction is Baltimore is the most complete team in the AFC. So I don't really know how to justify this, but they are probably the best looking team over the last month. The Chiefs had the stinker against the Broncos. Dolphins have had 2 losses, I think, in the last month, especially against the Eagles, where they haven't looked good, against the Chiefs, where they haven't looked good. The Bengals had a rough start to the beginning of the year. They've been on fire, though, as of late. But in terms of the AFC, Lamar's playing good. This is probably the best we've seen Lamar play since that MVP season. Still not going to give him props to win the MVP. I won't do that. But that running game it's sufficient enough. Receivers are doing their job when they actually catch the ball, unlike the Pittsburgh game. And the defense is doing their thing. The defense is a really good defense. So, we were talking about them trading at the trade deadline for a running back. That's something that I kind of predicted, but they didn't do it. And they're just trusting Justice Hill and Gus Edwards and their main running back, Lamar, to keep pounding the rock. And so far they're doing good the last month of the season.
So I'm going to hit you with an NBA analogy that's a little bit funky, but I'm going to tell you why I disagree with this. I think that at times they can look like the most complete team, and then at other times they look like they're barely a playoff team. And here's the team I'm going to give you for that. Los Angeles Clippers. And here's how I'm going to justify that. I think their defense is how their regular season is when guys are healthy. I think their offense is in the playoffs when guys are in and out of the lineup. But when they play, they have a good game. They may have a lead, and then they smoke it because they're not healthy or they run into the wrong opponent. So that's kind of how I see them. I think their defense is elite. I think they have been for a long time. That's kind of what they, what's the term? This is their identity, I guess, right? But as far as offensively, I just can't trust it. And so for that reason, I mean, they may look like the most complete team at times, but are they really the most complete team? Probably not. I think the Dolphins would have a little bit better of a case for that if everyone was healthy. Um, I even think the Chargers, if things were moved around and they had a different coaching staff, they would possibly be a little bit more complete in the AFC as well. Obviously, the Chiefs have times where they don't look totally in sync. Same with the Bengals. I mean, and the Bengals have been kind of off all year, but um, it's just not a team that I would be confident saying that they are the most complete team.
Yeah, but that's why we call it an overreaction for a reason. And
Yeah.
also, don't ever compare my Clippers to the Ravens ever again.
Yeah, you put salt on
Uh,
my wounds. I had to put some salt in yours, buddy.
I don't know what I'm more mad about: the fact that you compared them to the Clippers, or the fact that it's right. So, all right. So now we'll move on to our upsets, double downs, and picks. Starting off with Zeke's upset of the week, we got the Texans over the Bengals. So I believe, yep, he's the only one going with the Texans here. Zeke just riding with the CJ Stroud train. The Bengals had, let's see, who did they play last week? They played the Bills. So maybe they're coming off that high of beating the Bills, being right there with the Ravens. Maybe just since they're chasing the Ravens, they could step up a little bit. But Bengals are one of the hottest teams in football right now. I have to go with them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. But for me, I mean, obviously, I like the Texans and where they're going. And I think the Bengals are having a little bit of a resurgence of their season. But you look at that injury report for the Texans, and it's just like they got 7, 8, 9 guys on there, including their kicker, who they had to deal with last week. And I don't think they were really prepared for that. And you're not going to be able to kick field goals, with their backup
Their
running
fourth
back.
string running back.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that from a week to week basis. And so for that reason, I'm taking the Bengals to win this one.
Yep. My upset for the week, I'm going with the Cardinals over the Falcons, and I am the only one going with that. Once again, sorry, PT, I hate to rub salt in the wound, but the Falcons, I was pretty high on them. I really thought that they were going to be a playoff team this year, and they have just had too many close games, too many games that they should have won. Last week, an example, the Commanders, an example. So I just feel like that maybe they're still a year away. And the Cardinals, like, why would they win this game? It makes zero sense for them to win this game. Yeah, James Conner could be activated. Yeah, Kyler Murray is going to be starting. But like, don't they want number 1 overall pick? But they have also been competitive all year for the most part. So why would they win this game? Because why not? So that's why I'm going with the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you said, I pretty much agree with. I mean, like you said, I mean, I mean, not even a year away. I think we're probably a quarterback away as well, from winning the division. And you're laughing, but you know it's probably right. We're gonna have to figure something out there. But with that being said, I think it will be a close game, unfortunately, because it shouldn't be. But I think it's going to be another one of those games that we win by either a field goal or a touchdown, or something happens late in the game where the Cardinals they just don't want it enough. But I will say though, if the Cardinals win this game, I would say Arthur Smith probably has one or two more of those kind of games before he gets fired. So I
Oh,
think he probably knows that, and so he's gonna try to bring out the best of this team this week, on a team that they should win against.
yeah, I think there is basically, I think Arthur Smith is good for only 3 more losses. And if
Yeah.
like there's one that's like a respectable loss, like if it's the Saints late in the season and the Saints already clinched the division, then that's fine. But like you can't lose to the Cardinals. If you lose to the Cardinals, maybe the next bad loss, like a team that you should beat, like the Vikings or Commanders, then maybe the next one he could be gone. But
Right. Like if we can't if we lose to the Cardinals, we can't lose to the Bears, pretty much.
Right.
Like that one has to be a lock. I mean, honestly, both of them should be a lock, but I'm just thinking realistically, what would it take to get him fired before the season ends? And if he lost those two games, I don't see how you could justify keeping him.
I think the only thing that could happen if you lose to the Cardinals and you lose to the Bears, then you go from, potentially fighting for the division to, let's just keep Arthur Smith around, keep losing, and we'll get the number one overall pick. We'll get Caleb
Yeah,
Williams.
let's get a top 7 pick game. Yeah.
PT, who's your upset?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you, man. I didn't feel great about picking this upset, but I got to pick one, and it's the Commanders over the Seahawks. I think when the Commanders' offense is able to not let Sam Howell get sacked every other drive or every drive, they're a good offense. I think they have the weapons on offense, and the Seahawks I'm just not totally bought in on yet. And so I think for that reason I'm taking the Commanders, but I would not be surprised at all if the Seahawks won or won by a lot.
Yeah. So another conflict of interest here. I feel like whenever we have a conflict of interest, it's always you and Zeke.
Yeah.
But Zeke's double down is going to be the Seahawks over the Commanders. And it's funny how you're not bought in on the Seahawks, yet the Seahawks are winning the division currently of the team that you think is going to go to the playoffs. So I don't know, but you know what? If you're going with that upset, then I'll rock with it. I'm also going with the Seahawks, while Sean is going to go with the Commanders. So that's one of our first four 2-2 splits. But I just think that the Seahawks kind of had a rough game last week with their offense moving the ball. I mean, they could not do anything against I believe it was the Ravens, right? Yeah. They couldn't do anything against the Ravens. It's going to be hard to have this team have two bad games in a row. So I really think that the Seahawks can get it done at home. And then Sean's upset of the week is the Jaguars over the 49ers. This is another 2-2 split, and I'm going with the Jaguars here. I also think that the 49ers are going to lose their fourth straight game. Both teams had a bye week last week, or it might have been 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. I said that the Jaguars are going to be the 1 seed in the AFC for my overreaction. And I think it's time to take the Jags seriously if they do win this game. And just like Zeke's overreaction for this week is put up or shut up time. And I just don't know if Brock Purdy can step up to the plate. Hopefully the bye week helped him out, but we'll see.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely agree with you that I think if the Jaguars win this game, that's a team that you really have to take seriously in the AFC now. Pretty close, or if not equal to a team like the Dolphins. Although the Dolphins may be a little bit more flashy on offense, I think the Jaguars have proven that they can win games, and like ultimately in the NFL, that's what matters. You have to be able to win the games. But with that being said, I think for me, it's two things with the 49ers. I think one, I'm kind of just going off of the law of numbers. I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers tell me that the 49ers losing four straight, and the Jaguars winning five straight, or would it be six now?
I think it would
I
be
think
6.
okay.
Yeah.
Either way, those odds of happening, I just feel like aren't very good. And so I'm gonna take the team that I think should be able to kind of get out of this rut, and they know that they need to win this game if they're gonna even like make the playoffs, or keep being this dominant force. But the other thing I'm pretty sure Debo Samuel, not Samuels, is coming back after the bye week, and I think that adds a different kind of dimension to their offense that they kind of been missing. And like we talked about it before with the 49ers, it's like when they miss guys on offense, or I mean defense as well last year, but when they miss guys and they aren't able to play, their team just takes a very big dip. But when they get their guys, they're a very hard team to beat, whether it's the playoffs or the regular season. So yeah, I'm taking the 49ers, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and maybe this team is, or this game, or sorry, no, this team needs Debo Samuel in that lineup, because if you look at their last 3 losses, Debo got hurt, Missed the game, missed the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they win this game, then maybe it's not necessarily correlation, it could be causation.
Yeah.
So we already went over Zeke's double down, my double down for the week, and I hate doing bias picks, but it's the Raiders over the Jets. PT, did you watch any of that Raiders game? Did you see how amazing that offense looked?
I do, but I got to be honest with you, man. I think it's fool's gold. I think they are a better team without McDaniels, of course. I think he was probably the worst or a bottom 3 worst coach in the NFL. And I think, the players knew that, and they just, he lost the locker room basically. But I think this defense is going to give the Raiders a lot of trouble. And as long as, Zach Wilson can be in the game, I have them winning the game. It's just if the Raiders get a lead early, I know it's going to be really tough for them to come back. But for that reason, I just think the defense is going to give the offense a lot of trouble.
Yeah. This is where we're going to really see if Aiden O'Connell is going to be the quarterback of the future for the Raiders. If they win this game, then you're like, you know what? Maybe we trade Jimmy G this offseason. Maybe we just let him go, take another hit, which would really suck, letting 2 quarterbacks in a row off the books. But I do think that this Raiders offense can get going. The Jets just did not look good against the Chargers, and I feel like the Raiders are pretty comparable to the Chargers, even with how the Chargers have kind of been wishy-washy this year. But yeah, you're the only one going with the Jets in this game. So Sunday night you're gonna see, and then we're gonna be 5-5. And all I'm saying is the last time that we fired a coach mid-season, we made the playoffs. So just don't be surprised when it happens again.
All right, man. We'll see.
So PT, you're double down?
Yeah, mine's gonna be the Cowboys over the Giants. Like I've said before, I still like the Cowboys this season. Obviously, losing to the Eagles last week hurts a lot. But I think this is more about the Giants just not being a very good football team. Obviously, Daniel Jones goes down, Tyrod Taylor goes down, and they're starting a quarterback that I forgot his name, honestly. I'm not going to lie to you.
DeVito. Tommy DeVito?
DeVito, yeah. He is, if he starts, probably going to be the worst quarterback in the NFL this season. Saquon, I don't know how often they're going to be able to run this ball on a stacked defense that's going to stack the box. But as long as DeVito doesn't have a crazy breakout game that we didn't see coming, or they don't totally allow Saquon to rip that defense apart, they'll be fine. I mean, I think the Giants defense is not the worst in the NFL. They're not average either. They're definitely below average, but this offense is going to have to get back to what's winning them football games. And obviously it's going to be a reminder of what happened to them last time. So I'm taking the Cowboys for sure.
Yeah, and the Cowboys have had 3 losses so far this year. Eagles, you can give the excuse they're the best team in the NFL right now. The 49ers, great team, even though that was a 32-point blowout. You can still give that to them. But here's the thing. If they lose this game, that's worse than losing to the Eagles. That's worse than losing by 32 to the 49ers. And I think that would even be worse than losing to the Cardinals the 3rd week of the season.
100%.
So this would be the worst loss of the season for them if they were to lose this game. So yeah, I like this double down. And we all went with the Cowboys there.
Mm-hmm.
So then the last double down, Sean's double down. He's going the Ravens over the Browns. We all went with the Ravens here. Browns have been just a team that's just hasn't been able to get a groove. They lost Nick Chubb 2nd week of the season. Deshaun Watson's been playing inconsistently. People are starting to say like, hey, Deshaun Watson needs to have a game here. Otherwise he might be done, and it might be getting to that point. We might start to have that conversation. Is he going to be the quarterback of the Browns next season? So all went with the Ravens here, especially because it's at home. So
yeah, the Browns to me are the Chicago Bulls in the NFL. They've dug themselves a hole so deep that it's really hard to see how they're going to be able to get out. and not even get out now, but get out in a year, 2 years, maybe three. They paid all this money in picks to get Deshaun Watson, and their offense, for being honest, it probably isn't going to look much better than if they were to keep a guy like Jacoby Brissett or sign a veteran, like Taylor Heineke as of right now. He hasn't really played the best. I'm not totally ready to give up on Deshaun Watson, but I'm getting to the point where, like you said, it's getting to that scary point where you just kind of lose all faith in a guy and you don't really know what to do. Um, so yeah, but with that being said, the Ravens have kind of are hitting their stride here. They have an elite defense that's going to give them a lot of trouble. I think a lot of it too for the Browns was they lost Nick Chubb. That was kind of their foundation of their offense, and so yeah, I think this is a pretty easy pick. This could have easily been my double down as well.
Yep. So now just moving on to our normal picks. The Colts Patriots early European game. We all went with the Colts here. I just don't think that the Patriots are really fighting for anything. This could be, like you said, I think within the last month, Bill's last run. If they get a top 5 pick, maybe Bill has one last good kind of year in him. But other than that, I think the Colts are trying to figure out their team still. Do we want to tank? Do we want to try to make the playoffs? They're in that weird kind of limbo phase where, if they make a little run, they could potentially make the playoffs, but could it be all for naught? So we all went with the Colts here.
Yeah, I just think the talent perspective is a lot different. You look at the running backs, even Gardner Minshew, I think we'd both agree is at least better fundamental quarterback than Mac Jones. He can do things a little bit less detrimental to the team. And defenses, I would say, are pretty even. I would say I might give the Patriots a slight nod, but not by much. But yeah, I just think that they don't really stand much of a chance because they don't really have an identity. They don't really know what they want to do.
Another 2-2 split that we have here: the Saints and Vikings. And PT, you're sticking with the MO. Got to pick the Saints and hope for the best. Hope that they'll just lose. Which I'm surprised you haven't started double downing on the Saints, because then when they do win, then you're like, oh well, hey, at least I got the 2 extra points. But you and I are going with the Saints, while Zeke and Sean are going with the Vikings. Although I think the Vikings are going to be a playoff team, I think the Saints are going to win this game just because I think Derek Carr is hitting his stride. He's had a few good games in a row now. And although Derek Carr cannot play well on the road in cold weather, they're playing inside. So I think that's going to really help. And yeah, I think the Saints are just going to be the overall better team. A week of preparation against the Saints isn't going to help here.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with you. I mean, I think they're going to get a good tape on what Josh Dobbs can do. I mean, it's not like they didn't already with the Cardinals, but at the same time, against a divisional opponent that the Saints have, they will know what to expect. They'll know they need to wrap up. They can't let him escape out of the pocket. They got to contain. And I really don't think, I mean, especially because I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to play this weekend. I don't think they're too scared of this offense in general. I don't think the running backs scare them all that much. I don't think TJ. I mean, TJ is probably their biggest threat with JJ out. And I just don't think they're really thinking too much about that. And as long as the defense comes to play, they'll be fine. But as you said, you're surprised I didn't take the Saints for a double down these last couple of weeks. I did take them last week. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. But but yeah, that's how I feel.
All right. So the last of our 2-2 splits, we got the Packers and Steelers. And I'm going to be honest with you, PT, I didn't really know who to pick here. There was about 10 reasons why I shouldn't pick each team. And there was probably not a single reason why I should pick a team to win this game. But Zeke and I went with the Packers. You and Sean went with the Steelers. What was the reasoning? What leaned you one way?
Like you said, man, I don't think one thing or the other leaned me another way. This was honestly a really big coin flip for me. And that coin flip was the coaching. And I just think that the Steelers find ways to win, even if they shouldn't, talent-wise. Whereas the Packers, Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love just really don't seem to really have it. The rapport should be there because Jordan Love's been there for a long time. Matt LaFleur's it's not his first year, so they should have more rapport. But it just doesn't look like it on the field at times. So for that reason, I'm taking Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and probably the main reason why I went with the Packers here is just because they went and played fairly well on the road against the Rams. I don't think Stafford played that game though, but they still scored a few touchdowns, and I think they played a very good fourth quarter. I'm just hoping that they can ride that momentum because their season, if they want to try to make the playoffs, they got to turn it around here soon. So I think that is going to light a fire under them, where the Steelers might kind of feel like they're like sitting good for the playoffs, but they are not a good football team to make the playoffs. So maybe they'll have a fire as well because they know that. The next game, the Titans and the Buccaneers. We all went with the Buccaneers here. Will Levis. Let's see, they played. And they beat the Steelers. Yeah, Will Levis is 2-0 as a starter. Maybe the Will Levis era is here, but I just feel like this Buccaneers team at home, it's like, the Buccaneers are playing for something too. They lost last week to the Texans in a game that they probably should have won. You score in the last minute of a game to take the lead up by 4 points. I feel like the win percentage is like 95%. So like they probably feel like, okay, we lost last one, we got to get the next one. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to be fighting for something, especially if the Vikings are for real, because the Buccaneers could be fighting for that top division spot.
Yeah, I think for me, I just think, the Steelers' defense is good. The Falcons have a good run defense, but I think overall, when you account for secondary, you account for run defense, I just think that the Buccaneers are going to be really stingy this week. I don't know what it is about it that makes it feel like that. Maybe, like you said, it is the home game, or maybe it's that they have a couple games of full film on Will Levis, so they're going to know his tendencies. But I don't know. I just feel like this is going to be a really tough game on offense for the Titans.
Yeah. And then our second to last game, we got the Lions and the Chargers. Only one of us disagreed here. Sean's going with the Chargers, while you, Zeke, and I are going with the Lions. How hard of a decision was this for you?
Not hard at all. If I had to put a percentage on how strongly I feel like they're going to win, I'd probably put it at 80-20. I just feel like it comes down to who's the better football team, who's been playing better. I think when you look at coaching staffs, Matt Campbell has a significant advantage. When you look at running back and quarterback, possibly the Chargers have the advantage, but they don't really know how to fully utilize them. So does it really matter? It's kind of like the Falcons. Falcons are stacked on offense, but you don't really know how to use the weapons. So it's like you're not really that top offense that you should be. Whereas the Lions have kind of been kicking it in gear. They've been doing it all season, but lately it just doesn't feel like they're going to slow down, and it seems like one team has all the momentum and the other doesn't really have much.
Yeah, the only reason I feel like this could be kind of tough to go with the Lions here is I went with the Lions because I think that they are the overall better team. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers do win this game because the last 3 weeks, last week, Lions had a bye. The week before, the Lions escaped the Raiders. Even though they won by 12 points, they turned the ball over 3 times and had to kick 5 field goals, on a very bad Raiders secondary. And then the week before, they got blown out by the Ravens. So they realistically played what you could say is 2 bad games in a row, even though they went 1-1 and had a bye week. So the bye week should have helped them, but I would not be surprised if the Chargers do win this game.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
And then the Monday night game, we all agreed with the Broncos and the Bills. We're all going with the Broncos. Oh, wait, no, I'm just kidding. No, we're going with the Bills. I'm expecting the Bills to bounce back after losing to the Bengals, especially because now they are looking like they're not going to be in the playoff hunt. If they keep playing the way that they do. Josh Allen is leading the league in turnovers again this year. And like I said about a month and a half ago, this team is going to live and die by him. And this Broncos team can force some turnovers. So this is going to be a tough one, but I think that the Bills will get it done at home.
I hope it's not a tough one, because if it's a tough one for the Bills, that tells me that if they do make the playoffs, they're going to get smoked, but they're probably not going to in the AFC. If this is a hard game for them, I feel like they should win by at least 2 or more touchdowns. They at home, they got to show who the more dominant team is. But like you said, I mean, I agree with you. Josh Allen is kind of the guy they live and die by, but if he doesn't cut down on the turnovers, then it's just going to be what it is. And, I feel like there's some real questions there as far as, coaching and maybe weapons on offense. And I don't know, you kind of just have to break it all down if they don't make the playoffs this year, because I don't really see how they're going to get much better talent-wise when you have Stephon Diggs and you have James Cook and Josh Allen and the defense that's pretty good. So I don't know.
Yep. So that wraps up our Week 10 picks, previews, and overreactions. PT, the standings are still close. We're all within 6 points. The records have actually gotten a lot closer with you having 2 fairly, I feel like, I guess 2 weeks ago or
1 week ago.
Yeah, or 2 weeks ago you had a good record. Yeah. But like that 7-7 last week really bit you.
It did, yeah. 7-7 is not good. Yeah.
But we're all within 3 games of the record wise, and 6 points. So it's still anyone's game. We're halfway through, and we all reached the 100 point mark. So we'll see. We got, I think, 14 games this week, but we're going to start getting some tough games. I mean, over the last few weeks, this week we've had 4 2-2 splits. Last week we had 6. 1 the week before, none. So like you can see, like we're starting to get to the point where we're like we're getting to the good games now.
Right? Yeah, with a little bit more disagreements.
Yep.
Yeah.
But is there anything you need to add?
No, I would just say that I'm excited to see us reach our 100 win mark as far as the records go. It's probably not going to happen this week, but who knows? Who knows, man?
Yeah, the only 2 that can make it is
it's me and Zeke.
You and Zeke, but you have to go perfect 14-0 this week.
Yeah.
So yeah. And Zeke can only lose once. So right. Yeah, probably not this week, but next week for sure.
Yeah.
But once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. I've been Sam Holcroft.
I've been Payton Thompson.
Thanks for listening.